G'day guys, welcome to another episode of Depot Adventures. My name is Hugo and I'm a tour guide in Melbourne, Australia. Well, I'd typically be a tour guide, but at the moment I am not touring at all. In fact, I am barely allowed out of my house because at the time I'm recording this video, we here in Melbourne have just been placed under the most restrictive conditions for the coronavirus. In fact, our Premier has announced just yesterday that as well as being in a state of emergency, we are now entering a state of disaster and we are now going into stage 4 lockdown. So some pretty grim times here in Melbourne. So I just thought I'd take some time to explain what that means for us here and maybe a personal perspective on how I'm feeling and maybe by extension how the rest of Melbourne might be feeling as well. So what it means for us here is that there's some pretty strict restrictions on how and when we can go outside. It can only be for an hour a day and only for one of 4 reasons that may include caring for someone else, food or other essential services, or exercise. That exercise can be with one other person, so at least there's some socializing, I suppose, that can happen, but it can be only with someone who's within 5 kilometers of you. We can't be traveling more than 5 kilometers unless there's no other option to get food or to do exercise. The most serious, I guess, restriction is that there is now a curfew in place in this city. In fact, you can't be outside without a valid reason after 8 o'clock at night or before 5 o'clock in the morning, between that period. Now, to think that this would occur just 6 months ago, if you'd told a Melburnian there's going to be a curfew in place, I mean, we all know that no one would think something like this could happen. And what also is a bit difficult is humans are relative creatures. We compare our happiness and how we're doing at life with those around us. And what is considerably difficult is the rest of Australia is doing pretty fine. Well, I say pretty fine. There's some apprehension because there are some cases in the rest of the country, but they're few and far between. This city has over 1,000 cases in the last 2 days that have been announced. So we're by far and away the worst spot in the country, and therefore the ones that have been placed under these restrictions. We have to be outside in one of these at all times, although these have now been recommended in some states but not enforced. Over here it's law. Particularly like this lovely little butterfly number. Isn't that nice? So being under these lockdowns and these restrictions, it has, I guess been particularly difficult because we had gone into one lockdown already, 8 weeks, and we'd come out of that with very few active cases. And we thought perhaps that we were on top of this. And of course, it's not just unique to Australia. We've seen this in other parts of the world that we thought it was time to reopen. We thought things were going to be okay. And now they've gotten even worse than they were before. I guess it also speaks as well as the kind of Australian attitude. For a long time, Australians had this she'll be right attitude. We were known as the lucky country. We didn't really have to worry about 2 things. We were laid back and easygoing. In the last 3 decades, we'd had 30 years of uninterrupted economic growth. I mean, even the GFC, which hit a lot of people hard, we were pretty isolated and insulated down here from that. We never went into a recession. So times have been pretty good for a long time. And this is now a point where we might have to rethink our whole approach to how we're going in life, Australia's place in the world, because we always thought we were a bit removed from the rest of the world, and now we're forced to recognize, well, that's not the case. And for me personally, it kind of reminded me of a time when I was hiking in Spain with my partner, and we were walking on this path that we didn't know, we hadn't been to before, and we came to a sign that said track closed. It was in Spanish, but we worked out what it meant. So we were forced to try and find another path. But very quickly we realized we didn't really know where we're going. The track was getting very treacherous and steep and even dangerous. And there was that uncertainty. Should we be continuing this way? Are we going the right way? Are we doing the right thing? And it's those kind of feelings that I get now. I guess the difference in that scenario was we were able to turn around, go back the way we came. And the scary thing is that, hey, that's obviously not an option for us at this time. But Australians are a resilient lot, and I'd like to think that you don't grow unless times are tough. When things are easy, you don't really grow as a person, and perhaps the attitude we need to look at this difficult time for us. But I'm sure we'll get through together. Peace and love from Melbourne. We'll see you on another episode of Depot Adventures soon. If you want to support us at this time, the best thing you can do is hit that subscribe button and tell your friends and family, and get them on Depot Adventures as well. See you next time.